Great. So the purpose of this specific webinar is to help you understand the details of our application process. So we really want to demystify the graduate school application process by making transparent to everyone on this call or who will see this recording, really what we're looking for, the specific items we're asking you to submit, and then how those are taken into account as part of your holistic application file. So Stephanie and I, it is our job, it is our goal, our aim to help you submit a competitive application that feels authentic. So we are really here to make sure that you put your best foot forward in the application process. All right, so we'll start by just going through the application requirements, prerequisites, what we're looking for, and then we'll kind of talk a bit more about, how these come into play in your application. So, or in the application review process. But to kick off, there are a few prerequisites for the online MPH program. And essentially, those are statistics or college level math with a B+ or higher. Familiarity and aptitude with biological or social sciences. We aren't looking for a specific class. We also are not looking for you to have majored in bio or a social science, but having taken some coursework in those areas is beneficial. And then a minimum of a 3.0 GPA. So a few caveats. I'll go back to statistics or college level math. The reason this is a prerequisite is because our program does have a fairly quantitative, a quantitative focus. So in your first term, for example, you will be taking an epidemiology course, and the program will kick off with a pretty strong quant component. And so, this is not meant to bar folks from applying. We just want to make sure that you're coming in with the necessary skills to be successful right off the jump. So we do recommend, even if you took a stats class or a math class with a B+ or higher, if that was over 5 years ago, we generally recommend that you take a refresher course. If you did well in that previous course, you don't necessarily have to take it for a grade. We can talk more about that later, but the goal here is just that you feel comfortable with your quantitative preparation going into the program. And then the minimum 3.0 GPA, we are looking specifically for a 3.0 in your advanced GPA. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but that's really your last or everything after your first 2 years of undergraduate. So we want to we understand that it takes folks to get a little bit to get adjusted, settled into undergraduate education, and balancing, study skills, things like that. So we're looking at everything after your first 2 years, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. All right, so those are the prerequisites, and then now these are the application or the items that we would like you to submit in order to actually apply for the program. So the first thing is, there's 2 different essays that you'll be asked to submit: the statement of purpose and your personal history statement. Your statement of purpose is really, why an MPH degree? Why at UC Berkeley? Why online? So that's you telling us your goals, how this program fits in strategically to those goals and plans that you have. And then your personal history statement is more your personal journey to public health. You're telling us who you are and how your lived experiences have led you to this place and this time where you're applying to an MPH program. We would like to see the advanced GPA calculation. So I did mention that's, again, everything after your first 2 years of undergraduate coursework. There is a spreadsheet linked in this presentation, which Stephanie will send out, and you can use that tool to calculate your own GPA. We're looking for 3 letters of recommendation from either academic or professional sources. One common question we get is, what if you've been out of school for a while? That's completely okay. You can definitely do all professional recommendations. But essentially, we're looking for ideally a mix of academic and professional references. We do need to see all of your transcripts. So transcripts from every institution you've attended as part of your academic history. So if you took any classes at community college, if you did a prior master's, we really would love to see all of those transcripts. A resume or a CV. There is an application fee as well. And then if necessary, an English proficiency exam like TOEFL or IELTS. So this, we can certainly answer specific questions about that, but it's generally required if you did your undergraduate in a country outside of the US. And then we do not require GRE, which is great. So you do not need to sit for that. However, if you already have and you'd like to send us your scores, you can send it to the school code there. All right, so we are very excited to share that we are accepting applications currently for our spring 25 term. So our fall 2024 cycle has closed, but we are actively accepting applications for the spring 25 cohort. The deadline to apply for spring is August 8th. So you have some time, you have a few months to work on your application, and Stephanie and I are definitely there to support you throughout that process. And that spring cohort would begin in January. All right. So how do you get started? If you decided you want to apply, it's possible that some of you on the call have already started an application, so this may be familiar to you. But for the online MPH program, you just apply through UC Berkeley's graduate application. You do not need to complete SOFIS. This is a really common question we receive because many public health programs and even the on-campus public health program at UC Berkeley do require SOFIS, but the online MPH program does not require SOFIS. So just all you need to do is your UC Berkeley graduate application. The link is here, and again, we will send this out. But you can find the link to this application site on our website through the Berkeley Public Health website. And then you'll just want to indicate that you're applying for Public Health Online MPH, which you can see as the program that you would select. All right, so the next page of the application is your biographical information. So this is information, kind of your basic application information, your name, your address, citizenship. This is the place you would also submit test scores if you're a person who needs to submit like a TOEFL or an IELTS score, or if you're submitting your GRE, you would indicate that here on this first page of the application. All right. And then the next page is your personal background. I really like this image because it shows you on the left side, like each page of the application. So we just did biographical information. Next up is your personal background. And we're asking, again, if you're, your visa status, we're asking about California residency. This is, again, more just background information. Now, I do want to say for your biographical information and personal background, these two sections of the application are not used in any way as part of the review for admission. So this is just information that UC Berkeley collects. Some of it's used to, kind of understand who ends up enrolling and the demographic makeup of the student body here at UC Berkeley, but the information you enter here won't be used to determine whether or not you're admitted to the program. All right, so the next part is educational background. Now, this is relevant to your admission review. So we would like you to indicate if you have any prior disciplinary violations. If you have UC Berkeley affiliation, include that here. And then we would also ask you to indicate all of the schools that you've attended previously in this section. So anything you enter here, we will require a transcript for. So we would ask you to, again, list all of the schools you've attended. If you've taken any community college courses, if you transferred schools, please do indicate all of those in this section. And then again, you'll need to submit a transcript for every institution that you enter in this section. All right. And then the next section is your economic background. This section is more, again, like I would say this is just data collection that the university does. It'll ask you questions about if you have any dependents, your household income. You aren't required to answer all of these sections. This is, up to you. However, I will say the only time that we, the online MPH program, will use this information is if you're applying for a needs-based scholarship. So we do have one scholarship, the Dean's Health Equity and Leadership Award, and that is a needs-based scholarship. So if you are intending to apply for that scholarship, we would ask you to complete this section of the application. But if you're not, this is completely optional, and it will not be considered for as part of whether or not you'd be admitted to the program. All right, and then the next is your academic history. So I think I might have jumped ahead when I spoke about academic history before, but essentially this is the place where you would enter all of your institutions. So I apologize for jumping ahead on that, but this is actually the section where you enter all of those prior schools that you've attended. And, most importantly, it's any institutions that you attended while you were earning your undergraduate degree. If you did complete, postgraduate coursework, we would love to see that. It's not required that you submit those things, but we would, love to see your holistic academic history. And, your transcripts, your academic history will be taken into account as part of your admissions review. So, the faculty, the reviewers, they will look at your transcripts, your grades, things like that. And with that, I'll pass it over to Stephanie to talk a little bit more about the rest of the application.
Thank you. So I did link the advanced GPA worksheet in there if you haven't seen it yet and just kind of want to get a sample of what that looks like. This is the actual sheet that we use. So I just ask that you make a copy of this. And essentially with the GPA, it's something that we do use to review a part of your holistic application review process. And we're looking for a few things here. So it's required specifically for your cumulative and your advanced GPA. And that's all the courses that are completed after the second year or 60 units after enrolling in your undergraduate school. And if possible, including your cumulative graduate GPA as well. So essentially your cumulative undergraduate GPA is specifically shown on your undergraduate transcripts. Usually you can find that at the very tail end of the transcript next to your award date or at the very top. And it covers all of your coursework in undergraduate school. It's from start to finish, whether you are, someone that has completed community college and have moved on to a traditional 4-year or just the 4-year, it's going to calculate everything. And the advanced GPA, as Elise mentioned a little bit earlier, is coursework taken after the first or after the second year of your undergraduate career. And the reason why we focus on the undergraduate studies is because not all incoming applicants have an advanced degree. So this gives an equitable experience for all. Everyone has an undergraduate or bachelor's degree, and that is something that we can fairly calculate. And we do factor in other coursework that you've taken, if so, but the advanced GPA just gives us an assessment and it works to your benefit, actually. So a lot of times students might be coming in with an uneven pathway into their undergraduate school. Maybe you have, taken on a lot of additional coursework and haven't really found your placement in undergraduate school, and it took some time to get there. So, sometimes your grades suffer, or maybe you're dealing with a lot of personal situations and experiences, and you tend to do better towards the later part in your undergraduate career. So that kind of works to your benefit, assessing um, your coursework after the 60 units, or deep into 2 years of enrollment, because then you have your study courses. Most likely they're going to be your major courses, and there's just going to be a little bit more stability there for us to calculate. So that's a piece of how we would assess this. And if there's any issues with your GPA, we'll talk a little bit later in your personal history statement of how you can incorporate addressing any academic experiences that you want to call attention to and improvements. But essentially, the advanced GPA will just be a structured calculation of your coursework after your 2 years up until your conferred date when you earned your bachelor's degree. So we don't factor in your graduate coursework in that advanced GPA. It's only undergraduate coursework. The GPA for your courses in the major field of study are only your major specific courses. So for example, if I studied public health, I'm only going to include courses that are public health specific, that say PH 142, PH 153, but I would not include external courses such as like biology. We only want to see the major field of study in that course. The next piece here, if your intended field of study was not your major for your undergraduate degree, please calculate the GPA for all courses listed on your transcripts that relate to the field of study for which you're applying. So maybe you've taken a public health course before and it was just 2 classes there. You can include that there. Since there's not an asterisk there, it is not required, it's optional, but we like to lean on the side of, if you can add as much information as possible to help us with our holistic review, please consider that. I think it makes it much more helpful for us to get a full scope of your academic coursework, your professional coursework, which we or resume, that we can learn more about you. So anytime you don't see an asterisk, if it's possible for you to include, I always say try your best to add to that. And then, as mentioned earlier, the cumulative GPA is if you've attended graduate school, and whether you've completed it or not, if you have any courses that can tie back to this, you would include it here. But we essentially like to look at these two within our program, your cumulative, your advanced GPA, and if possible, we'll consider this here too. And in most cases, there are, some students that might be on the call or looking at this recording who have attended non-traditional programs where maybe you've attended pharmacy school. If that's the case, typically a pharmacy program can be, let's say, I want to say 6 years, 5 to 6 years. We would ask you to you can reach out to me specifically, because I know that the transcripts are unique from school to school, but traditionally we like to follow the method of 2 years of undergraduate enrollment and then counting onward for that, if that is your situation. And then languages, this section is typically asking, or this section is asking you to include languages that you speak and indicate your competency in the languages. So essentially, this is not going to affect your admissions or anything, but again, to help us understand more about our applicant. And moving to recommendations. So within our program, we actually require 3 recommendation letters. Typically, it can be a blend of professional and academic references. If you've been out of school for some time, it's okay to use 3 professional references. There's plenty of opportunity in your recommendation letters to focus on your academic promise, your professional experiences, and how that might tie to your preparation, and giving us an idea of you as a successful candidate for our program. So tying those key experiences that bring academic maturity, professional maturity, or leadership skills can be very useful in including that in the references or recommendation letters. And a tip that I always tell students is, reach out to your references and see if they have the time to write you a thoughtful and thorough recommendation letter. And just if they in any way, say maybe I'm not the best person to speak to your academic potential because it's been many years, or maybe I just don't have the time to do so. Try not to take it to heart. I know it's easier to say that, but they are looking out for you. You really want to find people who can be coached to write, thoughtful letters, or have observed you and can speak thoroughly and thoughtfully. So in that case, move on to somebody else that can speak to your, strengths. And we typically recommend waiving your right to view the recommendation as a best practice. This is more so just a common practice within the application process across, applying to different graduate programs. For the most part, this is not going to impact your application if you choose not to, but again, a best practice that we commonly see. And the process for us is that once you type in your references contact information, they will receive an email invitation along with instructions to submit your recommendation letter the moment that you click send to recommender. So if you're not ready to send it to them, you can save it and get back to it another day. The thing about our application process that makes it really seamless is that you don't have to do everything all in one sitting. You can work towards maybe, sending out references first and then submitting your statement of purpose another day. You can really work in chunks with it, which makes it a lot easier. Now, when you press send to recommender, they're automatically going to get that email invitation. And that's where they're also going to submit their letter of recommendation. So it's all in an electronic format. It's nothing that is going to require them to self-submit, a scanned copy that, or like the folios. I know that some medicine programs use a different system. So for us, it's going to be an upload button. They're going to get a 2-questionnaire survey attached with that, and it's going to be very smooth sailing. In the event that they don't see this email invitation, you can have, or I would recommend that you first let them know to check their spam folder. It's going to be an email that says the sender is going to be from Berkeley Graduate Admissions. So it's not from us directly, but from the larger graduate admissions team. And if they still don't see it, they can connect to us, have them reach out to us at online.mph@berkeley.edu, and we can send them a separate link to ensure that they get the information that they need. But if you ever run into any issues, come talk to us. We're always here to support you. And aside from that, the application can be submitted before they even submit the letter of recommendation. So just know that the deadline is due the same date as your application deadline. So for us right now, we are accepting applications until August 8th, which is a Sunday at 8:59 Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time. And that is their deadline as well. So try to remind them as soon as possible so they have enough time to write a thorough and thoughtful letter. A few things to also remind yourself as best practices, try to have them use professional emails and professional templates as well. And moving forward with your employment history, this is a space where we'll want you to include your most current and or relevant public health work experience in this section. This will be accompanied by your resume or CV, but this is also very helpful for us to just understand the highlights of your experiences. We'll get to see the deeper details in your resume, but this can be used not only to better understand you as an applicant. Sometimes it can feel like the information is redundant, but we actually use these in different capacities. Sometimes this can be helpful for us to better understand our incoming class and when we're pulling information to see, what applicants applied to our program. Are they medical professionals? Are they public health professionals? Are they pivoting into this space? So this gives us kind of an overview and really helps us out with that. The statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose is a space where we would love for you to speak more openly and succinctly about why you're choosing our program. This is a great space for us to, learn if you've done your research on why you're choosing our program and why we would be a good fit for you. I always talk about partnerships. When I think about applicants, exploring programs, I imagine that they might be researching our program because there's a concentration that stands out to them, a curriculum that they're really interested in. Maybe there's faculty that, really calls to attention that says, this is a space that I want to be in and I want to grow in. I want to pursue and build my public health toolkit with this program because they have a lot to offer that I can benefit from. But on our end, we look for fit. We look to see, does your goals align with what we can offer you? And when we think about our students, we don't think about just your student experience, but we think about the alumni experience, your professional experiences as you move on into the program. We want to build that lifelong relationship. So think about that and how that speaks to you. Why UC Berkeley's online MPH program? How does this program meet your needs academically and professionally? Which concentration are you interested in? Is there a relevant online MPH course specifically to your concentration? You really want to get into the specifics if you're going to include that, to think about why you would like to take that course and how that might benefit you in terms of your training. And maybe there's a gap and that maybe you're a public health professional already, but there's still some gaps that you have that this program or course can really, help take your skill sets to that next level. So really speak to that and help us learn more about why this program interests you. And what do you hope to learn within our program? You can highlight your skills, but include, again, the gaps in the trainings and knowledge that you want to expand with an MPH. How will this program enhance your ability to accomplish your career aspirations? Maybe you don't know the exact job, or you do. So it's okay to have different, you know, goals from other peers that might be on this call. This program is specific to you and your needs. So if you know that you don't necessarily know what kind of job you have in mind, but you're utilizing this program to give you that space to think and to build off of that, that's okay. But I think in that case, you can focus more about how this program through the course curriculum can at least help you build that toolkit so you can be that public health professional when you're getting ready to apply for jobs. Or maybe you can utilize the practicum to build that out. But if you already know what job you have, or maybe you don't want to pivot because you're in a public health profession, I would speak to how this program can help enhance those skill sets that you're utilizing an MPH for. Articulate your interests, your background, your experiences, your passion in public health, and how it relates to future goals. Do not repeat your resume. This I tend to see amongst a lot of times with early career professionals wanting to showcase that, they are serious candidates and are super excited to highlight all of your volunteer experiences. And we'll have your employment history, will have your volunteer experiences. So if you're referencing to it, just make sure that the other materials that you're including are already robust. So that way you can focus more specifically on how this program is truly going to benefit you as a graduate student, as a public health professional in training, or a public health professional that is hoping to expand their skill sets, or someone that's pivoting. And your max word count is 1,000 words. We do receive a lot of applications that have a lot of information already in it. So we take our time with this. So try your best to use the words or word count that you need. You don't have to go and use 1,000 words. It could be less. That's totally okay. But just make sure to, stick to the prompts that we're asking for. And your personal history statement is, it sounds very similar to this, and you might be wondering, why do you need two essays rather than one, where a lot of schools actually just ask for one essay. So for us, we don't have an interview process where we get to meet you, but we get to learn a lot about you. And we feel that this is such a valuable placement here for you to really reflect on your journey and thinking about, all of these experiences that have helped you get to this point and feeling well prepared for graduate school and feeling that this is the time for you to make that connection to consider an MPH. So think about some experiences by starting with exploring your background. You can provide context for any gaps or inconsistencies in grades, test scores. You can talk a little bit about educational disadvantages or barriers, challenges or obstacles that you might have faced. This isn't the case for everyone. And again, you don't have to use every bullet point that you see here, but this can just kind of help you think a little bit more about your own situation and where you want to start your personal history statement. Some students choose to talk about key experiences from their childhood. Some students might talk about their experiences as a professional space where they've landed a job where now they need this degree, and this is kind of their point where you say, okay, where am I at in my life, and what have I done to feel prepared? So reflect and use those experiences to think about how you want to navigate your personal history statement. And this is a space that is so unique to yourself that you have a lot of free range in terms of what that might look like. But I like to think about this as a space for you to reflect and express any key experiences that have prepared you or motivate you to really strongly consider pursuing graduate school and into the field of public health. And you want to highlight your passion, your integrity, your maturity, your focus, your strong motivation for this field or preparing for graduate school. I like to also connect this back to the school in itself. So when I think about the School of Public Health, I think about the school's mission, our vision, and our purpose, and why we even have this program, and why is it set here. So when I think about that, does it align with what your values are? Does it align with your mission and purpose to, ensure that we're protecting and uplifting communities and addressing public health issues? Think about those things and how does that tie to your personal values? If there's a connection there, that can be a space for inspiration to talk a little bit more about too. And when I think about gaps, if you're addressing any academic inconsistencies or just things that might be a little uneasy to talk about, think about your improvements or what you're working towards to strengthen yourself as a candidate, or just how you've learned and what you've taken out from that space. So for example, if you've perhaps had low grades and you knew that it was because you were taking on additional uh, courses and maybe you were working a lot, what were some things that you um, reflected on, and how did you change your strategy to improve yourself? So perhaps maybe you realized that by taking too many classes, that just wasn't feasible for your situation at that time. So you decided to take a little less of a academic workload, and because you knew you had to stay a full-time employee, right? Just thinking about how you changed and improved your situation. Or maybe it's that you retook a class. It could be that simple as well. So think about your own situation and how you improved and reflected on that. And moving towards our public health online program. So this is a space where it's actually very specific to our program. This is where you're going to be able to select your concentration. So we have 4 concentrations that we offer to our students: epidemiology and biostatistics, health policy and management, interdisciplinary, public health nutrition. So it's very important for you to reflect on what you think you're interested in. I will say that at a later point in the program, if admitted, you can make a change, even if you select that, let's say that you are interested in health policy and management, but find that maybe as you're going through the program, maybe you're closer to an epidemiology and biostatistics candidate than you are health policy and management. There's a possibility for you to make that change, but it's very important in the application process to find a concentration that speaks to you now. That way it will also help you with framing out your and structuring your essay. You can have an idea of what you think an MPH will do for you, and it can help you speak a little bit more specifically to the concentration that you think will benefit you the most at this time. But our program in itself is flexible. So join our info sessions to learn a little bit more about that. But on this page, you'll see here that you can include official score reports for things that might be outside of the TOEFL. For example, MBBS students might apply for and take the USMLE. You can include your exams there if you want us to see that. This is important here though. So students that are submitting a documentation of work experience, this is where you would include that material. It's very easy to miss, so just make sure that you go to Public Health Online Program and choose it here. Now with this is specific to health policy and management applicants. We are looking for one document that can be a verification form. This can be directly from your supervisor, HR, it can be an onboarding letter, it can be a pay stub, a tax form. Essentially, we just need one verification form that shows that you have professional experience and full-time experience, preferably. And if there's any sensitive information on there, such as your social security number or bank routing number, you can redact that, but we're essentially just making sure that you have professional experience coming into the program. The reason being is because health policy and management specifically has a curriculum that is tied to a lot of your own professional experiences. I think in the nature of the conversations that you'll partake in, and just, again, the nature of the curriculum really ties to that. So just make sure you have one document. And if you have any questions, you can totally ask in the chat. Adding to that, if you scroll down on that same page, this is where you'll put your resume or CV, and you can put multiple documents here actually, but just allow it there to be a few minutes to load. It's a very slow system. So many schools are utilizing this. So you can imagine, that it's a slow system, I would say. But aside from that, give it time, and you'll see that it says add another file if you want to add more than one document here. Again, it's your resume or your CV or any relevant information that you want to include for us, but you just don't feel that it lives anywhere else. Like it's a catch-all, basically. This is where you can put publications. This is where you can give us samples of presentations that you want us to know a little bit more about. But I jumped ahead, but the relevant information is a space for you to also talk a little bit about your skills info. So maybe you have quantitative skills, or you've have data analysis or evaluation experience, things that you want us to see that might not be easily located through your transcripts. Maybe a transcript doesn't tell us your syllabus, right? But you know that you've taken a class that could be really relevant for us to see. You can talk a little bit more here. So use this to your best judgment. If you don't need to include anything here, that's okay. But everyone will need to include their resume and CV, and that's where this section goes. And moving forward, we do have some scholarship opportunities. I'm happy to share that we have the Dean's Health Equity and Leadership Award, and we also have the Rural Health Innovation Program. So this is open for spring students. I will only focus on this at this time since this is what we're accepting. But on the same page, you'll see the scholarship opportunities listed here. So if you're interested in this, and it's open to students that are looking for a need-based scholarship, if you click yes, there'll be a pop-up that includes all the information here. Now, for the Rural Health Innovation Program, similarly, there's going to be a pop-up for that for spring 2025 applicants. To just kind of give a quick overview of this, if you live or work in rural communities and are interested in applying for that, you can click yes and then apply to that scholarship as you see there. We'll actually have a separate workshop for that. So I want to advise you to sign up for that. But essentially the scholarship options will be here and there will be prompts for you to follow to include. Now, closing out, we do have an application fee as we conclude to the end of the application. So it is non-refundable at $135 for US or permanent residents, and it's $155 for international applicants. Now, within our program, we don't have any fee exemptions. So there's nothing that we offer within our own admissions team here for fee exemptions. However, the Office of Graduate Admissions offers fee waivers to students that are eligible for this. Please do not assume that you're eligible for that. It's a whole process. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, you'll want to follow this link here. Again, this will be sent out to you, but you'll go to grad.berkeley.edu admissions /apply/fee waiver to learn a little bit more about that. So there's a few criterias that you can just explore and see if you qualify for. If so, what you'll need to do in the application is submit the documentation that they're looking for. Usually it's a student aid report from FAFSA for the most current year. And if you have that, they will assess that through their office and they will indicate in your application if you've been selected or not. If you haven't been selected, you'll receive an email that states that you have not, and you'll need to submit the payment for your application. So it does take a little bit of time for them to go through it since they're reviewing all applications, but essentially you will always be notified. So just keep that in mind. You'll also be able to see it within your own application system because they will leave a public comment in your application file. So if you are antsy about it, you'll find it in two ways, either an email or your application. And then last but not least, we would love for you to stay in touch with us and check out our next info session. We have the Rural Health Innovation Scholarship where we'll go into a deeper dive of the qualifications, the eligibility, and the whole process for rural health innovation. And that will be held on Wednesday, April 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Now, if you are, interested in connecting with me, feel free to schedule a phone or Zoom appointment. You can find us many ways through this link, our emails, and reach out to me directly, and we can always set that up.